I'm gonna draw your mom.
Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Sebastian Fundora's promoter, Samson Lukowicz, confirmed the Towering Inferno is targeting a return this fall, likely in September or October. While no opponent is set, he's looking to follow up on that Big Tim Tszyu win after beating Keith Thurman.
So he's not unifying titles with Josh Kelly?
There was a blurb a couple of weeks ago that there was a dialogue between the two teams, Team Kelly and Team Fundora. I was never optimistic that a fight between them would form, and apparently it's not going to. So Sebastian won't be coming back until much later in the year, towards the end of it.
September's kind of crowded.
Canelo is supposed to be fighting in September. Mayweather versus Pacquiao 2 is supposed to be happening in September. So maybe Sebastian's return will get pushed into October.
No numbers yet for the Thurman fight.
That pay-per-view was supposed to be Sebastian Fundora's big win over a fucking has-been.
How many weeks has it been?
For a perspective, it couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 days before the numbers came out for Inoue versus Nakatani that was reported to have brought in a $32 million gate and broke pay-per-view records over there in Japan. Not but 2 or 3 days, whereas it's been weeks, months even, since Sebastian fought Keith, and no numbers have come out.
No numbers are going to.
Because that fight didn't sell shit. What's Sebastian up to? 2, 3 pay-per-view appearances, none of which sold anything? And I remember him saying that he doesn't plan on shooting for Undisputed at 154. He's not going to do that, but if he's not going to do that, what is he going to do?
Whatever he's doing, nobody seems to care.
And bear in mind that Virgil Ortiz is still WBC interim champion. He's the guy in line to fight him as his mandatory, but the World Boxing Council is happy to not order that fight. Remember, Virgil became mandatory all the way back there in August of 2024.
Close to 2 years ago.
Sebastian became WBC champion that same year, and he has yet to satisfy a mandatory for the WBC. The WBC, who were very Johnny on the spot to bog down Dmitry Bivol with a mandatory.
Couldn't have been more than 15 minutes after he became a champion. They weren't even next in the rotation, but they called that mandatory pretty quick, whereas Sebastian, he gets a year and a half, 2 years, without them bothering him.
Funny how that works.
I don't know who he's going to fight in the fall. Maybe he'll fight the winner of Spence versus Tszyu, provided that the winner is Errol Spence Jr., because remember, they were supposed to fight the night that he became a champion. Remember, his longtime handler Samson Lukowicz said, Terence Crawford has to wait because we're gonna fight Spence. This was after Spence got beaten half to death by Crawford,
making it all the more shameless.
Crawford was his mandatory challenger via the WBO, and they were more interested in fighting Errol Spence Jr., the guy he beat, than the guy himself.
Fucking cowards.
Sebastian just fought a has-been in Keith Thurman, so maybe he'll fight another one in Errol Spence Jr., all depending on how Errol looks with Tim. Because if he loses, there goes the neighborhood.
Old Sebastian will be shit out of luck. You're always hearing about how the junior middleweight division is the deepest division in all of boxing, though you'd never know it based on fighters like Sebastian, who are happy to stay in their own little lane, fighting in safe fights, not unifying, not shooting for Undisputed. You hear me say it all the time. Today's boxer has too much wiggle room to waste people's time, waste people's money, because whatever he does in the fall, it's not free.
Putting together a show, setting the undercard, paying the production crew, promoting it.
And all for what? So that Sebastian can fight another Cordell Booker kind of guy? Or another has-been like Keith Thurman? I believe that American boxing has been in decline for years now because the American boxer doesn't hold themselves to any kind of a standard, and they have a little bit too much autonomy, too much wiggle room to waste time, which you can't get back.
What was the Thurman fight if not a waste of time?
What did Sebastian Fundora accomplish in giving that guy a title shot that he didn't earn? Were we supposed to be impressed?
I picked Sebastian to win that fight, mostly because Keith Thurman is a has-been.
I don't get the impression Sebastian is all that pressed to face the winner of Zayas versus Ennis or Josh Kelly. to unify titles with any of the other champions at the weight. He's looking for another old man to pounce on, another compromised fighter who's not what he used to be, and Errol Spence Jr. would fit that mold perfectly, because even if he does beat Tim Tszyu in Australia,
Tim is damaged goods too. That guy spent the better portion of a year getting his ass kicked.
Errol doesn't suddenly reverse the hands of time if he can beat a damaged goods Tim Tszyu. He doesn't suddenly find the fountain of youth, but I feel like Sebastian and Samson are waiting to see what happens with that fight, set to go down this summer, so that in the fall,
If Errol's the one that wins,
they can try to go after him. No telling if Errol will oblige them. He didn't oblige them the first time, and he may not oblige them now, but we'll see.
Yeah, I need somebody that's going
Yeah.
be, I guess, apparently, I guess I'm the bad guy now, but I need somebody that have a rival with.
Right. So according to the names right now, you got Fundora, he's a unified champion, right?
Yeah.
He got a couple of belts.
Mhm.
But Virgil Ortiz, he doesn't have a belt, but he has a name. Which one do you think would be a bigger fight?
Between who?
You and one of them.
Virgil or
Virgil or Fundora.
Fundora. I feel like that kind of like even out, because
Yeah, really?
Fundora got the belt, but Virgil kind of like got somewhat of a name.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, then again, I don't know. But I would say Fundora probably the bigger fight, only because he had created character. The people, he 6'5", 6'6".
He just beat Thurman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk to me about that. Come on.
Another glaring example about how the fighters may know about the fighting, but they don't know about the business. That Boots doesn't know shit about shit. If he thinks that a Fundora fight is bigger commercially than a Zayas fight,
have you seen how many times Sebastian Fundora has been fighting in half-empty arenas?
it's been that way for years. I remember the night he was knocked out by Brian Mendoza. There was barely anybody in there.
Making it all the more tragic that Sebastian could get laid out like that and nobody was even around to see it.
The fighters are often self-absorbed, self-important, and egotistical with rigid and linear vision. They don't know as much about the business as they think they do.
Boots doesn't.
If he thinks that a Fundora fight is in any way bigger than a Virgil Ortiz fight, which is what he said, or a Zayas fight, the fight that he's about to have, it's not. It would be a meaningful fight and a significant fight for the hardcores, but to the casuals are largely unaware of Sebastian Fundora, and they have been for years, which is a byproduct of his less than ambitious matchmaking, which is set to continue late into the year, because as stated, Sebastian said he doesn't want to be undisputed. He's happy with his WBC title.
He doesn't really want the other ones, likely because of who he'd have to go through to get them.
This guy's got a long history of ducking real smoke, real fights. He ducked Terrence Crawford to pursue an Errol Spence Jr. fight. After that, when Xander Zayas became his mandatory challenger, what did he do with him? He dropped the brown belt. He handed it over, and it's not like he was otherwise preoccupied with anything. He wasn't. He was free. He just didn't want to fight that guy.
He's not going to want to fight Boots if Boots beats Zayas.
And if Boots Ennis, later on in the year, makes a play for a Sebastian Fundora fight, all Sebastian's going to do is price himself out. That is, if it's left up to Matchroom to negotiate the fight amongst themselves with the PBC, based on market value, you probably can't get that fight done, and the only way is for Turkey to overpay.
That's it.
And even then, it's not a lock. It's not a guarantee. Sebastian Fundora is a risk-averse fighter. He always has been, and I don't think that's about to change. Over to the now defunct Angelo Leo versus Reese Aleem fight that has been called off as a result of Reese Aleem missing weight by 2.8 pounds, practically 3 at the weigh-in a few hours ago. The bout was scheduled to headline a Salida Promotions card on DAZN at the Gateway Center Arena in College Park, Georgia. Boxing Scene was first to report the news that the title bout was canceled. The card, however, will still take place. The scheduled co-main event between light heavyweights Atif Oberton and Carlos Gongora has been elevated to the main event and is scheduled for 10 rounds. So anybody in the area still interested in seeing a boxing match who may have purchased tickets to the show might get something out of it. But as far as Reese Aleem, he really screwed the pooch here, because the only reason Angelo was going to fight him was because he had to, was because that was his mandatory. All of that has gone to Bolivian.
And Angelo Leo has managed to dodge a bullet that could have costed him his IBF title, his reign as champion, because I didn't actually like his chances in this fight.
I felt there was a strong possibility that he may end up losing the red belt to Reese Aleem, who he was under orders to fight, but based on that, Reese Aleem is supposed to hold up his end of the bargain. You're supposed to make the contracted weight, which he didn't.
You just let Angelo Leo off the hook.
And, missing it by that much, an estimated 2.8 pounds, roughly 3, it sort of gives the impression that you weren't trying to make the weight.
You couldn't have been. Not missing it by that much.
So what was the plan here? To get the drop on Angelo Leo by coming in a few pounds over and surprise him at the last minute, hoping that they won't cancel the fight? Catch him with his pants down, hoping that he made the weight while you didn't, so that he'll be depleted and you're not.
Was it deliberate? Was it by design? Or was it just a sheer lack of professionalism from what's supposed to be a professional boxer?
Veteran boxing scribe Stephen Kimothy has his theories. I grow more suspicious of fighters who miss weight nowadays. I just can't help it.
Because it doesn't look like it's by accident, it looks like it's by design, like you meant to miss the weight if you missed it by that much.
Veteran boxing scribe Marcos Villegas said, bruh, they couldn't negotiate some money to still have the fight go through, and perhaps they could have if Angelo Leo were receptive to it, Marcos, but I think that Angelo knew how risky this fight was, and he was only having it because the IBF ordered it.
If he didn't have to do it, he wouldn't do it. So as soon as Reese Aleem drops the ball,
Angelo Leo's off the hook.
he gets off scot-free. He doesn't have to run any risks with this guy.
The short answer, Marcos, is they probably could have worked something out, but Angelo Leo didn't want to. He wouldn't be here now if the IBF hadn't ordered it. Now, why does this seem like a prevalent problem in the sport, more specifically among American fighters? Because off the top of my head, I can name at least 5 or 6 Americans who, in recent memory,
It's not a uniquely American problem, but it's definitely more prevalent in the American boxing scene than the British one, and certainly more than the Asian one.
I think it's because the Americans, more so than other fighters in other regions, look to exploit rehydration by squeezing down to these lower divisions to then have a size advantage over their opponents. I remember Shakur Stevenson blew the weight right before moving up. David Benavidez blew the weight, lost his title on the scales. Keyshawn Davis, ahead of what was supposed to be the Edwin De Los Santos fight, he blew the weight. That fight got called off.
And now so did this one, for the same reason.
You remember when Ryan Garcia was supposed to box Devin Haney at 140 pounds? And he came in over.
I wouldn't call this a uniquely American problem. It's not exclusive to American fighters, but it definitely happens more with American fighters than other fighters. And I think a big part of the reason is because American fighters, more so than other fighters, look to exploit rehydration. They're going to squeeze down, make the weight as best as they can, so the next day they can blow up and come in upwards of 15, 20, 30 pounds over.
What people like to call weight bullying. I don't harp on it much myself because it's the industry standard. There are many, many fighters doing this. And if it seems like more of a thing now than in previous eras of boxing, it's because in previous eras they had same-day weigh-ins.
They don't do that anymore.
And so it seems that the fighters are a lot less professional.
Opportunistic.
If getting off that last 3 pounds is that difficult, what that means is you've outgrown that weight, you don't belong there, you shouldn't be there, you probably should have moved up a long time ago, but you wanted to maintain a size advantage over what smaller fighters you might encounter at this weight.
That's the basic idea.
Otherwise, why squeeze down so much? There are a lot of people doing this, but there are some that aren't. And it's those guys they want to take advantage of. Those guys they want to exploit. So, the fight is off, Angelo Leo's dodged a bullet, and he gets to stay IBF champion a while longer.
And now it's time for another installment of what has fast become the most popular segment here on the channel, Ring IQ Hate Mail!
Wilfredo Cervantes is back to defend the honor of David Benavidez, saying Benavidez should fight Opataya, but are we going to ignore the champions that went to Zuffa that are no longer champions?
Jai Opataya is still lineal and Ring Magazine champion, buddy.
It's not a designation that any sanctioning body can strip you of, but Wilfredo continued, Dana White's war on the establishment, Turkey offering Benavidez versus Usyk instead of Opataya. There are things to be hashed out before Opataya happens.
No, there aren't, because David Benavidez isn't fighting Usyk. He's not moving up to heavyweight, and they already said that.
They are on a collision course. Maybe Benavidez is going after the WBC champion for now. Opataya can get his IBF strap back, and they'll meet up mid-2027. That is realistic.
That is duck talk. So you're okay with him pursuing Noel Mikhailian, who nobody thinks is as good as Jai Opataya, and doesn't have the financial backing of a Jai Opataya on the premise of what?
If David pay-per-view money, it's Bivol. Chase the WBC strap and then Opataya. I'm a boxing fan first.
Dimitri Bivol, the guy who he just told to meet him at 190 pounds, which is basically cruiser. If he's gonna stay at cruiser, he may as well fight another cruiser, the one calling him out.
Because Noel Mikhailian ain't the one calling him out. Jai Opataya is the one calling him out.
He's been calling out the winner of that fight since before he lost his own belt, since before he signed to Zuffa.
I want to see that fight. I do think Benavidez will be favored by the odds makers versus Opataya, if only slightly.
I think it doesn't really matter how the odds makers have it if David doesn't fight. And that's David's MO, to move into these weight classes but never beat the man to be the man, because he didn't do it at light heavyweight and he's not doing it now at cruiser.
You know that he could have done it when he was back at super middle, where he reigned as a champion not once but twice, but he made no effort to unify that division. The point being, to be a David Benavidez fan, you have to turn a blind eye to a lot of things. There has to be a level of cognitive dissonance to support this guy.
That you're getting mad at me for pointing things out? Pointing things out that the other boxing scribes and members of the media don't want to talk about.
You sound like you're a member of his team, trying to put distance between him and a Jai Opataya fight that's really only as difficult to make as the teams make it. Because if David Benavidez himself went to Turkey and said, I want to fight the Ring Magazine and lineal champion, I'm sure that Turkey would oblige him. He made him an Anthony Yard fight, didn't he?
And before that, he offered him Callum Smith.
So why would he be averse to making the Opataya fight? He wouldn't. The only ones averse to that are David Benavidez, his father, his team, and his fans.
I've already seen the American boxing fans do this song and dance with other fighters that I know exactly what it is as soon as it starts, and you don't fool me.
You want to make out guys like me to be the bad guy because we're advocating for a fight, because we're holding David Benavidez to the same standard we hold every other fighter to. If you're good enough to win 2 alphabet titles in the cruiserweight division, there's no need to start sandbagging it now when cruiserweights start to come after you. Namely, this division's Ring Magazine and lineal champion. If David really were about legacy, he'd fight that guy, because he's never held the Ring Magazine title at any weight he's campaigned. Here's your chance.
He's never been lineal?
Or does being Ring Magazine and lineal champion not matter anymore to the modern boxing fan, to the David Benavidez faction of supporters?
Well, if it doesn't matter, then why the fuck is he on Canelo's dick? Why was he going after him?
Well, that's because he's an opportunist, and he's hoping to make Canelo Alvarez look bad so that he can make himself look good, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if it were showing up in the numbers. But it's not.
You haven't fooled enough people.
And the more you bring up that little red-headed Mexican who's still campaigning at super middle while you're up there at cruiser, the more obvious you make it.
You're ducking. And that's all it is. It's not complex.